Hey, we're back. We're about 10 miles outside of Julian on 78. This is this part of the road here is a lot of twisty action. A lot of bikers love to come out here, and they go pretty crazy on all these twisties. Me on a dirt bike, on the other hand, with knobby tires, I don't do anything really too radical. I just changed these tires. I had the other knobs that I had on were not DOT. They were a much more aggressive knobby than what I have on now. Now I've got Dunlap 605 on the rear and Continental TKC 80 on the front, which are much better on the road than my other knobs. But since I have to go and register this bike, I figured it would be a much better deal to have DOT tires. Pretty country out here. Following this pop-up in front of me, I was thinking about getting a pop-up. The only drawback with pop-ups is, for me, there's no really way to secure them. I mean, when they're in their popped up state, you know, it's basically just a tent. So there's no real, you know, with canvas sides, it's anybody can take a knife and just take whatever they want out of it. But other than that, I mean, I like pop-ups. I mean, they have enough room for one person, easy. You know, they have a little cooking area, bed area. I like the idea of them. You know, you can tow them with almost anything. They don't weigh anything. But it's just a if you're using it more for actually living in, like in a bug out situation or something, like I said, there's just no security. So like whatever you have inside is subject to being stolen fairly easy. So I don't think I will really invest in a pop-up. You have to spend at least $5,000 to $6,000 on any kind of trailer that, if you want it to be somewhat decent, that you can almost, you know, use it. Anything below $5,000 in today's market is pretty much a junk box or you could use it for a tool shed on your property. But all of the trailers that I looked at in like the 16-18 foot range, under $5,000, I wouldn't even put them in a classification as a fixer-upper. It's more like tear everything out and start over. Most of them are really, really rough inside and stinky, So, I mean, I'd love to get an Airstream because they're built fairly well. When I was living in my bus, I only really had like 15 feet from the front, like the front doorway of the bus till like where my back bed was, because the back part of my bus was like a garage area, my tools and all that stuff. So, and of course, my bus was only 28 feet long to begin with. It was sort of a 3/4 size. So I know that I can definitely live in a 15-18 foot trailer, because that's all I was really living in my bus. And before my bus, I used to live on a sailboat. And if you know anything about sailboats, they're not very wide. They're not like living in a trawler or cuddy cabin or something like that, where they're pretty wide and much more roomier. Where sailboats, because they're sailboats, are very narrow. But I can live in a pretty small area. I'm really open to tiny homes too. I like some of the tiny homes, but it's just unbelievable what they want for them. I mean, $70,000 for a tiny home? Hello? I mean, come on. I mean, it's just... getting crazy. Prices, inflation. Yeah, we got a bunch of these twisties, a couple more miles until we get into Julian. For a holiday weekend, I actually thought there would be a lot more traffic. I just left the campground, and that was like a deserted, there was like nobody there. And this is a holiday weekend, so I was really quite surprised. And this time of year out in this area is very, very pleasant weather-wise. It's high 60s, low 70s. It gets chilly at night, but this is sort of the high desert. We're about 4,000 feet here. All these pines and California oak trees. This is not even springtime, and you can see how dry it is out here. Years back they had serious fires here, but that's the way California is. There's always fires in California. You have a little bit of rain, and once the vegetation dries out, you really have a huge fire risk. There's a real mixture of homesteads out here. There's quite a few ranches, and then there's quite a few just like anything goes kind of dwellings, from mobile homes to all kinds of stuff in between. The Julian Library. Just around the bend here, we'll get into the actual downtown part of Julian. Here we go. They got good pies here. Pretty day. Every weekend is usually like this. People come out here for lunch, window shop, buy stuff they don't need, you know. A lot of history here in Julian. It's gotten very commercialized the last 30 years. It's a little, you know, touristy town. I actually thought it would be more mobbed than this, but this is mobbed enough for me. I'm not really into touristy kind of places.